Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for a new video. And I just want to extend a massive thank you to my returning viewers as well as to my new subscribers for giving my channel a chance and supporting me. It means the world. And if you're new here and you haven't heard my sort of intro spiel, if you will, my name is Emily and I am a new gardener here in the Midwest. I'm interested in growing everything from ornamentals to edibles, and I do feel like moving to this property has been a wonderful and very interesting crash course in learning how to do so over the past few years. And my ultimate dream goal here is to develop a cottage style garden that I can relax in and that produces some amount of food for my family. And it's just a peaceful kind of sanctuary escape for me. In addition to learning how to grow things and learning more about the environment, I do also love any sort of skill or hobby or activity that can afford me the opportunity to slow down and relax and sort of focus on creating. One of those hobbies that I've been getting way more into over the past year has been baking. So I do really love learning new recipes and trying them out with you guys here on my channel. In this video, I do think we are going to attempt one today, although I have not decided which new recipe to try, but I do enjoy collecting beautiful baking books, so I'll see if I can take a quick scan through one of those and find one for us to enjoy together. I would absolutely describe myself as a person who really enjoys any type of creative activity, and especially an activity in which I can go outside and forage for natural materials to create with. So I do try to do a lot of floral arranging here on my channel. That is a skill that I am very passionate about learning to improve. I very, very much enjoy it. And I will be very sad when the winter comes around and I don't have as many gorgeous roses and flowers to arrange with, but I'm sure we can still find some gorgeous different materials. If any of that sounds interesting or exciting to you, it would mean the world to me if you considered subscribing and joining my little community here on my channel. And also please leave me a comment down below and let me know what are your hobbies or what crafts do you enjoy doing. So ultimately that is the primary goal of this channel, for me to take you along on these sort of creative pursuits and share with you. Okay, so now moving on to share some of the very exciting updates that I have been dying to share with you guys, and starting off specifically with the one that I am by far the most excited about is that our 4 beautiful, sweet Pekin ducks have provided us with their first eggs. Yesterday morning we received our very first egg, and then today we received an additional egg. We're not quite sure which duck is providing these eggs, and if it's more than one duck, perhaps the first egg was from one and the second was from another, or if there's just one that's a little bit further along developmentally than the other 3. But regardless, I am so excited that we are starting to receive eggs. And I believe I mentioned a couple videos ago that we were expecting to potentially start receiving them starting in the fall. So this is a little bit earlier than what was expected, and that is very exciting. It is a very special treat and I'm so grateful. Admittedly, I was a little bit jealous of my husband because he was the lucky one that got to see our very first egg. He goes outside in the morning as part of his regular morning routine before work to let the ducks out of their enclosure, and he saw an egg there and called me immediately and let me know. And of course, I immediately grabbed my rain boots and ran out there to see as well. From the research that I've done, I do believe that Pekin ducks are prolific layers and that we should expect to receive about 1 egg every 1 to 2 days. So we will have plenty of eggs for my morning omelet. And because this is my first time raising ducks, I'm not sure what the overall cadence will be of their laying and if I can expect to mostly see these eggs available in the morning or if it'll happen throughout the day. If any of you guys are more experienced in raising ducks, I would love to know if that is typically the pattern. Obviously, I will receive the answer to that in time, and I'm really hoping that I can make it out to their enclosure tomorrow morning before my husband so that I can see their next egg. Okay, so now moving on to chat about the garden, we have had a tremendous, it cannot be overstated, amount of rain here in the Midwest over the past couple of weeks. And honestly, since August started, I think that we've had very few days without rain. And when I say rain, I mean significant flooding level amounts of rain. And we have had sort of a river in our backyard that builds when it rains too much that thankfully runs through, but it's been sitting there for quite a while, and the ducks are really, really loving that because they absolutely, of course, go crazy for it. So we have had nonstop rain here, which has been both positive and negative, and I am absolutely very grateful for that, as it is better than having drought. But of course, it has brought about its own unique challenges with the garden. I do, during this time of year, have to spray my roses regularly with neem oil or a blend that contains neem oil in it, such as Rose RX, to keep my roses doing well and from not having skeletonized leaves and just being destroyed by the various pest populations such as rose slugs as well as deer. And unfortunately, due to all of the rain, it has been very difficult to spray because, of course, if I go and spray and treat the roses and then we get a massive rainfall, all of that spray and treatment is washed off and is rendered useless, and that's a very expensive waste. And so I have been holding out and waiting and not spraying my roses in hopes that I would find a pocket of time where we weren't receiving significant amounts of rain that I could spray. However, that time really never came, and hilariously enough, I desperately went out and sprayed them because the deer had come and did some major damage to one of my front yard roses. And that night, literally I think within an hour, the rain came down and washed that spray completely away. So that has been a little bit of a struggle. And as I said, the deer really took advantage of the fact that my roses were not being sprayed. And I had a rose that had reached about 4 feet tall. This was a rose that I planted as a bare root plant a year or so back, and I was so excited to see the progress it had made. And unfortunately, I noticed the other day that the tallest stem that was sitting at the 4 feet was completely stripped bare of all of its leaves over the course of the last couple of days. So that was very, very sad to see. It's hard for me to blame them because I'm glad they're getting nourishment, but I really would have preferred that they nourish on something else other than my roses. Today has been the first day in a very long time that it has not rained for the majority of the day. And in fact, I don't believe that it's rained at all yet today. So with a little bit of luck, fingers crossed, I'll be able to get out there and spray my roses tonight so that I can protect them and protect the excellent progress and growth that they've had over the past couple of months. Now, on the subject of animals eating my plants within my critter fence, and for those of you who are new to my channel, I have a critter fence area where I am attempting to grow food and sort of create an enclosed space for an edible garden in which animals cannot get in and consume, like the deer, for example, which are very, very active on my property. I have been battling a little creature stealing my strawberries, and I do believe this is most likely a squirrel. In one of the garden beds that I have in my critter fence, I have 3 strawberry plants that I've enclosed and attempted to protect with metal cloches. And I had noticed that those cloches were being moved a little bit by something. So I grabbed some little hooks to secure them into the soil, and that was preventing them from being able to be slid across or moved slightly to get to the strawberries. However, a very clever little creature. I don't quite know how they're doing it, but they're still getting my strawberries despite the cloches not moving. So they must be like sticking their little arm through the little holes in the cloche and stealing the strawberries, or finding some other clever method that has completely evaded me. So I was very excited because I knew that I had a ripe strawberry out there waiting for me a few days ago, and I went out there and I was so sad to see the strawberry. Not only was the strawberry gone, but some of the newer unripe strawberries that had just started coming in were stolen and broken off as well. So I have a very crafty little creature on my hands that is very well experienced at this task and knows how to steal fruit that's been caged. I have to figure out an alternative method for protecting my strawberries. I did purchase a few years back a system from the brand, I think they're called AgriFrames, and it's sort of, they have these 4 stakes that you can overlay mesh over and secure into the soil or the ground, and it serves as a netting to protect your edibles. And I did use this before in my garden beds next to my greenhouse and found it to be effective. However, my issue with it was that during the summer, the soil was getting so hard because we have very dense clay soil here that the hooks would get stuck in the soil and were very, very hard to retrieve. And it just became cumbersome and difficult to get into my garden beds, which was discouraging me from growing in those beds. So it was a little bit counterproductive. And I will say with these deep critter fence beds, there's so much loose soil that's not compacted because it's a raised bed. So we're not getting into that clay soil as much, that it might be a lot easier for me to use them in the critter fence because I can just put those hooks in this loosened soil and hopefully not have the same issue. So I've been considering pulling those out of storage and maybe setting up that system again. If you guys have this issue or if you have a solution that's worked for you, I would love to know. And on the subject of the critter fence, I do have one last very exciting update to share with you guys, and that is that the second garden bed has finally been completed and filled with soil. It took us quite a while to fill up those two big beds back there, and I'm very excited that the project is finally complete. And the goal hopefully for today is to go outside and get some seeds sown for my fall garden while I still have a little bit of time, a short window before it gets too late. I would love to know if you guys are working on a fall garden and what you are sowing right now. So those are all of the updates I wanted to share with you guys for today's video. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and let's see if we can get outside and do a little bit of creating and seed sowing before the rain returns. So I just wanted to make a relaxing, comforting cup of tea, and I went over to my cabinet and pulled out this one by a local brand called Foraged and Sown. And this blend is called Bouquet. It has bergamot or bergamot, not entirely sure how to say that, with rose and calendula and lavender. And I've also grabbed this tea infuser right here by the brand Rishi, and we're gonna go ahead and give it a try. I'm gonna go ahead and let this infuse for about 10 minutes. just wanted to show you guys, look, I have some of the Rose Bonbon Cosmos blooming. A couple videos back, I wanted to show you guys these, and the sun had completely dried them out. But we have a couple more that are looking great. Look at all of these little duck footprints that are in the mud. This little puddle is all that remains of the river that we had running through our backyard after these several weeks of heavy rain. Look at how tall my David Austin St. Swithin rose is getting. And there is a pretty big spider web in the middle of this obelisk. I actually just walked straight through a spider web on my way down here, and now I have that feeling like something's crawling all over me, which is awful. Just to give you guys a little bit of context about what I was discussing earlier involving a little crafty critter stealing my strawberries, here are the strawberry plants I was referring to. And as you can see, they are closhed. And actually right now I see a little strawberry ripening down there. And hopefully this one is secure enough to not be stolen. But if you guys have any recommendations for how I can improve this setup without using netting, please let me know. And just to give you guys a really quick update on how my Japanese anemones are doing that I recently planted, they are absolutely loving all of this rain and are looking really lush and happy. Here is the second critter fence garden bed, all filled up with soil, and the soil is looking a little bit uneven and a little bit weird from all of the rain, but I'm so happy that it's filled up, and the goal this afternoon is to go ahead and plant some seeds. Oh, it looks like a butterfly just landed in the bed. I don't know if you guys can see that, but how pretty. I've been seeing a lot of butterflies lately, and specifically monarch butterflies. This isn't a monarch, but it makes me really happy to see monarchs given their decline in population here in the US over the past few years. Look at this young wild Queen Anne's lace plant. She's so delicate and so pretty. Just a quick progress update on my sunflower seedlings. They're getting so tall. There is, however, something munching on them, so I'm gonna have to figure out what that is. Alright, I've retrieved my seed box and I'm hoping to at least sow some radishes and carrots today, so hopefully I still have some of those seeds. Okay, so I've picked out 3 different seed varieties that I want to try to get sown today. We have the ruby red chard, the carrot Danvers 126, and flower winter radish. This chart says we can direct sow it in the garden for winter crop this time of year in August or September. So I'm going to give that a go. And then Danvers I've had good luck with in the past. That's what I sowed in my other critter fence bed. This particular type of radish I'm not 100% sure because I've never tried to plant it before, but being that it has the name winter in it, I'm hoping that that means that it is cold tolerant. I will do a little bit of research real quick to see if it is also heat tolerant and can be planted at this time of year so that I don't end up getting a plant that bolts too easily. Okay, I did a quick Google and it looks like sowing the Danvers right now is a little late and that we might need some frost protection because potentially we would be looking at a November harvest, but I'm still going to give it a go, and if needed, I will sort out the frost protection. I've created these little trenches to go ahead and put my carrot seeds in. And the soil is already a little bit moist from all of the rain that we've been getting, but I will of course make sure to give them a very good trench once we're done here. Next, we're going to move on to sowing the radishes. I saw a master gardener on Instagram using this method, and I will tag her profile down below in the description if I can find it. She was just sort of sprinkling the seeds along in this trench, not really spacing them out, and I guess the idea was that she would thin them. I'm going to attempt to use that method and see how it goes. Okay, I'll keep you guys updated on how this method works for me. So now the final seed to sow is the chard. got those seeds sown, and now we'll see how they do. Okay, so for today, I'm just craving a very simple chocolate cake. It's been a while since I've made a chocolate dessert because I do suffer pretty severely from heartburn when I consume chocolate. However, I am a chocoholic and I really want to have some chocolate today. So I was looking online for an easy recipe and I came across one by islandsmile.org, and it's for a 1-layer 9-inch chocolate cake. So for the ingredients, we need 185 grams of butter, 385 grams of granulated sugar or caster sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 3 eggs at room temperature, and excitingly, I have exactly 3 duck eggs that we have gotten so far from our beautiful ducks that I can use for this recipe, 300 grams of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 70 grams of cocoa powder, and finally 1 cup of warm water, or you can use coffee. I will say as well that this recipe also has steps to make a chocolate frosting. However, I am going to forego the frosting for today. So for the first step, we're going to combine our flour, baking powder, and cocoa powder. It says to set that aside. We've combined the butter and the granulated sugar, and the next step is to mix it until it's creamy. And now we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Okay, and now for the extremely exciting part that I've been waiting for. Here are the 3 eggs that we have received so far from our Pekin ducks, and these 2 much larger eggs have been the last 2 that we've received. One of these 2 we got this morning, and then this one I believe was the very first egg that we got, which is significantly smaller than the other 2. So I'm hoping between these 3 eggs that it's enough. And we immediately got a double yolk. And a second double yolk. I got so excited to show you guys the duck eggs that I totally forgot that I was supposed to mix in one at a time. So all eggs have been added. Let's just go ahead and give it a mix now. We're going to go ahead and add in our flour and cocoa powder mix. We're finishing off by adding in our cup of warm water. Okay, I've brought over my greased cake pan and I've preheated my oven to 320 degrees Fahrenheit. All that's left now is the final step, which is to put it in the oven and bake it for about 40 minutes. The cake is done baking and I had some leftover batter, So I also made a couple of cupcakes, and I did try a few, and they are amazing. Very rich and chocolatey, exactly the type of dessert I was hoping for. So now, of course, as usual, I'm going to go outside quickly and gather some roses and some flowers to decorate.